Welcome back. You're watching CNN Newsroom. I'm Lynda Kinkade. Well, a painstaking excavation process is now underway in Western Ireland at a site that's believed to contain the remains of hundreds of children who died at a so-called mother and baby home. A team of Irish and international forensic experts broke ground on the two-year project Monday at the mass grave site in the Irish town of Tuam. It's the Mary's home where pregnant women, pregnant mothers and unmarried girls were sent to give birth was run by the nuns from 1925 until 1961. Decades later, the work of a local historian revealed that 796 children had died at St. Mary's without burial records and had been placed in a decommissioned sewage tank. Relatives are seeking answers and a proper burial for the children.
It's been an emotional roller coaster. It's not just, we're almost a month into this emotional roller coaster I've been on. Today, I consider, I said it last week as well, it's a small light at the end of a very long tunnel. And hopefully Tuam will be the expose. 9,000 children were listed as dead in the Commission report. Tuam is only the tip of the iceberg, and I always believe if we can get Tuam right, everything else should follow.
Well, joining us now is Sarah Ann Buckley, an Associate Professor in History at the University of Galway and a lead researcher for the Tuam Oral History Project. Thanks so much for your time.
Hi, Lynda. Thanks for having me.
So at least 796 children died at the Tuam site, from newborn babies to 9-year-olds, and their remains are now being recovered from what's believed to be a septic tank. And what's even more disturbing is this was not an isolated case, was it? This was happening across Europe. I mean, Ireland.
Yes. So as you say, Monday was a very emotional day for survivors. There's a much longer history here. Tuam is one of 14 mother and baby institutions investigated by the Commission of Inquiry into Mother and Baby Homes. And it's over a decade since Catherine Corlett revealed her research, which showed neglect, which showed improper burial, which showed a very undignified burial. So as a historian and as the lead of the Tuam Oral History Project, we have interviewed survivors and affected about their experiences in the institutions, which has shown us that they experienced a lot of difficulty searching for their identity. And we've seen this in other institutions across the country. And now the job of the team and the excavation is identification and hopefully respectful burial and later on memorialization. But it's a very dark period in our history that affected particularly marginalized women and very vulnerable children.
Yeah, and speaking of those children, one of my colleagues spoke to a child who had survived that. Just in terms of the history of Ireland, until the 1980s, contraception was illegal. Abortion remained banned until 2018. My colleague spoke to John Rogers, who was born in a mother and baby home after his mother became pregnant from an assault. He was taken from her as a baby, reunited only 40 years later. She'd kept a lock of his hair. I just want to play some sound.
The church and the state, they had this thing about unmarried mothers being evil. They looked on them as dangerous because they were dangerous to men.
How common are stories like this? How were unmarried pregnant women treated in Ireland during those decades?
Well, as you said, women's rights when it came to their reproduction in particular were incredibly curtailed, particularly from Irish independence in 1921. And John, who I actually interviewed, his story and his mother's story is not as unusual as perhaps people might have liked to have thought until more recently. So I would argue that in the hundreds of thousands of actual individuals are affected by this story. In the Tuam institution alone, there were 2,000 women plus that were in that institution over 4 decades. As we know, almost 800 infants that died. So it's a very large story and one that affects many of us. And I think in Irish society, there's still a lot of coming to terms with this and trying to address, I suppose, the social and cultural forces that allowed this to occur. But days like Monday, where we are beginning to see an opening up of this history and an acknowledgement of the survivors, of their testimonies, of their stories, is really critical. And I would encourage, if anyone has any interest, stories like John's. We have a podcast that the actor Cillian Murphy actually narrated, which reflects, I suppose, the emotional and really the traumatic sense of how people were treated by the Irish state and, for many, the Catholic Church.
Yeah. And it was an amateur historian, Catherine Collis, who uncovered the evidence of the mass grave at Tuam. What does that say about the way these institutions were protected?
I'm sitting now in Galway, and Tuam is 20 miles away. It's a small town. What Catherine Corliss did as an individual in society was just phenomenal. But she did actually face quite a lot of opposition in different ways. We can see historically as well times where there was some censorship of the media, where people are trying to break these stories. As with other countries where we see this historical abuse, there's advocates and survivors who are speaking for decades, like John, like Anna, trying to ensure that their story, that their family's story can be heard. But even when the Commission of Inquiry's report was published, the executive summary did not reflect what many people had given in their testimony. So there is a sense that there is still truth, reconciliation, and justice that is needed for many survivors and their families.
We do hope they get that and the justice that they are seeking. Sarah Ann Barkley, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lynda.